Okay, so let's dive into the last sociological perspective. That is the last of the three major sociological perspectives, and that's symbolic interactionism. Okay, uh, this perspective is a little bit different from the first two, functionalism and conflict theory, because we're not looking at society from a macro or bird's eye view perspective, but we're looking at it from a micro level perspective. So imagine you are a fly on a wall and you're paying attention to people and what they're saying and how they're feeling and how they're behaving and interacting. So we're looking at individual behavior a little bit more closely, but we're still studying things that are happening in society, social institutions, patterns, things like that, in a sociological way. Um, what it basically means is that symbolic interactionists look at interactions between individuals, and they look at specifically symbols within society. And a symbol in this sense is not like a stop sign or peace sign. I mean, that is a symbol, but we're looking at things like how we dress, the foods that we eat, our language, okay, the words that come out of our mouth, um, little looks on our faces. So a smile, a head nod, for example. These are all little symbols that we're largely not even aware of. So we go through life, using these symbols, but we're oftentimes not even aware of it. The best way to really understand symbols is if you go to another country and it's a country that another language is spoken that you don't know. Suddenly, the words that are coming out of people's mouths are not understood to you. Okay, um, different facial expressions or customs may not be understood to you because they're symbolic. They have meaning to them. So when we wave our hand in the United States, that means hello. If you go to another country where the handshake isn't, or the wave hello doesn't exist, they have no idea what you're doing or what that means. So the idea is that these symbols are socially constructed, and that's the idea. They're symbols. They have shared meaning. And these symbols that are created at the individual level, so the symbolic interactionist would say, has a profound impact on, group actions, beliefs, interactions, etc. And it has a profound impact on society in general. For example, if we look at gay marriage, the gay marriage debate in the United States, a symbolic interactionist would say, well, the first thing that we have to study is we have to study what people's views are on being gay. And for example, if the individuals in our society looked at gays, lesbians, transsexuals, bisexuals as completely normalized, seeing nothing wrong with it at all, then it would profoundly affect things like laws against gay marriage, because there wouldn't be a reason to have laws against gay marriage if it was a completely accepted phenomenon. So again, the idea is that meanings formed at the individual level can have a profound effect on people's actions and on society in general. And the second part of symbolic interactionism is that society is constantly changing. So if these symbols are being shared amongst individuals and they're being constantly contested, and sort of some symbols are dying and some symbols are being born, then society is in a constant state of change. So that's the basic idea of symbolic interactionism. Now, to quickly go through two of the most famous symbolic interactionist theorists, there's George Herbert Mead, who really was the founder of this perspective. He came up with a theory that it's called personality formation, and it's the idea of our self-concept, our self-identity, develops only through our interaction with others. So it's only through interacting with other people, say family or friends or people at school or the job, at the workplace. It's only through interacting with others and sort of getting that feedback from other people that we develop our own self identity. We learn how to act and how other people will accept us or not accept us. So we shape our actions based on other people and their perceptions. So this social interaction happens amongst people actually forms our own self-identities, how we feel and believe about our own selves. And again, that this interaction is made possible by these symbols because we cannot really interact in society without shared symbols. So we can't say, for example, if you are walking across the street and you want to wave to someone, you put your right hand up and you wave. Or say you want to show gratitude. Somebody opened the door for you, as you're walking out of the Dunkin' Donuts. What do? You smile and you say thank you. These are shared symbols that we use all day long as we interact with all different types of people in all different types of scenarios. And these symbols, which again we don't really think about, make the functioning of society possible, and they make the smooth interaction between people possible. The other influential symbolic interactionist sociologist was Talcott Parsons, and he was writing in the 50s, and he wrote about the family. He wrote about the family being a very important institution in that everything starts in the family. We are taught how to act, how to behave, what values that we're going to have, what our roles are going to be. We're taught all of that stuff in the family. And he talked about, the importance of, he was very old-fashioned, so he talked about the importance of gender roles, the importance of the mother and the wife, and her role in the house, and the father's role as the breadwinner. And he looked at these roles as extremely important for the functioning of society. Now, I've talked about the three perspectives. Now I'll talk briefly about some of the other perspectives. So we discussed functionalism, we discussed conflict theory, and we discussed symbolic interactionism. Now, there's also feminist theory, and feminist theory is tied to conflict theory. Okay, so feminists are talking about a problem in society that they believe needs fixing, and that is the subordination of women worldwide. Okay, the global subordination of women, which is seen a lot more in less developed nations. So if you look at, parts of the Middle East, Southeast Asia, Africa, it becomes really, really, really clear gender inequality. In a lot of places in the world, women have very little rights. Their husband is the authoritarian figure. He decides, he makes all the rules, he runs the family, he controls the woman. In a lot of cases, women have no say in or control over their own destinies. So, for example, in Saudi Arabia, women can't drive, they can't vote as of now, um, they can't divorce, etc. So feminists would look at this worldwide subordination of women, but also in developed countries too. Looking at things like why women are still paid less than men, why are they still earning less than men, why are they still less likely to get hired or promoted than men. So this is kind of the position that feminists take, and they basically advocate for more equality between men and women. Feminists have been given a bad name. They've become a stigmatized kind of group, but really, in all reality, they're just advocating for equality. They get a bad name for being man haters, but we kind of want to try to steer away from that stereotype. Okay, so the second perspective that we're going to talk about is postmodernism, and that is a movement that occurred in the late 20th century. It happened amongst artists, writers, philosophers, and social scientists, researchers, okay, specifically sociologists. And what, in terms of sociology, what postmodernism means is that we can no longer state things about society, our own or other societies, fact. So we can't make general statements, okay? Say a researcher studying family life amongst the poor. we can't interpret these theories, these findings as fact without understanding how that researcher may have been biased in some way and how his own experiences may have influenced his research. Okay, so it's sort of reinterpreting, redefining how we study things in our society. And we can't simply take somebody's theory as fact without trying to understand that person's background and how that person's theory is merely an interpretation based on his or her own experiences. Okay, so lastly, I'll touch on the mid-range theory. And in short, what the mid-range theory is it's kind of a breakaway from earlier sociologists who tended to make very, very general, broad statements on society. So if you notice, if you ever read any of the original founding fathers' research, what you see is you see a tendency of these earlier sociologists to talk about society in general as a whole. What you see nowadays is modern sociologists, you very, very rarely see anybody talking about all of society. What you see instead is you see sociologists and other social scientists studying one very specific particular thing, and it's usually studying a social institution or a social phenomenon, and how that phenomenon or institution is affecting society. And then you might be able to make very subtle claims, but it's no longer saying, okay, society is this way, and it's this way because of A, B, and C. No, we're taking a much more specialized approach. So those are the major perspectives, and that's the basic concepts of chapter 1. Please read the chapter thoroughly. Do not rely on this lecture for your chapter assignments and for your exams, because there's a lot that I could not possibly cover in this short lecture. So like I said, please read the chapters carefully. And again, if you have any questions, I'm here to help. Just shoot me an email. I'm pretty good about responding to my emails, and I will meet you for the next chapter.